Hello and welcome everyone to the latest Zillow Rentals webinar. I'm your host, Brian Miller, and today we're going to be talking about fee transparency. Over the past few years, we've seen this topic become a focal point for policymakers and regulators, and we're starting to see some major changes that will impact the multifamily industry. So with our time today, we're going to explore what we're seeing, including data on what renters want when it comes to costs and fees. We'll also show you some of the tools that Zillow has already built to help give more transparency to renters. We're going to dive into what we're seeing in current and pending regulation around the country and explore what Zillow is building to allow our rental partners to enable total price transparency across their portfolios. Last, we'll dig into what the implications might be for property owners and marketers and what they'll need to do to get ready. So, to cover this, I've asked my colleague Lily Ferguson to join us. Lily is a product manager with Zillow's social impact team and has been leading much of the work Zillow has been doing around these changes. Lily, welcome to the webinar.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Start us off. Would you mind just defining what we mean when we say fee transparency?
Yeah, absolutely. So when we talk about fee transparency, it really is, pretty simple. It's about providing clear upfront fee details. So specifically, what are those monthly fees that you might face? What are move-in fees you might see? Super useful to understand what are mandatory fees that everyone is required to pay in addition to what's optional, right? I've got pet, parking, storage. What are those fees going to be? Ultimately, it helps renters understand what the true cost is. And then further, it helps them make decisions that are right for them based on their budget and needs. So that's what we mean when we talk about fee transparency.
Got it. And that renter focus is so vital here. Let's get into how renters feel about fee transparency. Can you talk us through what some of the data shows?
Yeah, absolutely. So, kind of we've been seeing that renters really want and are increasingly expecting transparency in their housing search process. In our consumer housing trends report, we saw that 94% of renters agree that listings should clearly display all fees. So that's nearly everyone. And then in user research that we've done, we've found that many renters believe that fees are already included in that advertised base rent. So there, oftentimes folks will be surprised later in the process that fees are beyond their budget. So high level, we see this as being increasingly something that our renters are telling us is very important and top of mind.
Yeah, and we know that all of these fees can really impact renters who are worried about affordability, right? And that's not a small percentage of the renter population either.
Right. Affordability remains a challenge for renters. So, we know that over 50% of renters are cost burdened, meaning that they're spending, 30% or more of their monthly budget on housing. So, with that, any unexpected fee can really cause some financial strain. When we've surveyed renters about this, again, we've found that some folks will ultimately end up disappointed when they find that a rental they were really excited about that they toured ends up being too expensive. So again, this all comes down to that fee transparency piece where, helping users understand affordability upfront really can help save them time and then also save them from disappointment.
Well, that said, let's talk through some of the tools Zillow has built to help renters better understand what they can afford.
Yeah. So in the past year, we've launched new features aimed at this, providing this transparency for our renters. Many will have seen that we now have a cost and fees breakdown on all of our rental listings. So this really is aimed at helping renters better understand what the total cost will be, see what those fee details are, and then further make optional selections to help calculate a customized price for their actual needs. So notably within the calculator here that you see on screen, users are able to understand what are those monthly, fees, and then what are those one-time fees. Additionally, if the property wants to provide more details, there's an additional section called additional fees for, kind of any other fee you might encounter. Critically, within the calculator itself, you can see what are the fees that are required, again, for every single tenant to pay versus what are the fees that are optional. So think pet, parking, storage, some of those key needs that a renter may have, being able to see those fees in the calculator, very useful. Our calculator actually lets you engage with those selections. So say I need pet, parking, storage. When I make those selections, the price actually updates to provide me with my calculated price. And then finally, for ease of use, renter selections persist across the entire user experience. So from listing to listing, as I'm searching across Zillow, Zillow remembers that, I have a pet, I need parking, I need storage. These selections follow me throughout the user experience. And then finally, we understand that our partners need flexibility to communicate, the fee information they're providing to renters. So within the calculator itself, there's quite a bit of flexibility and tooling there to allow partners to customize fee labels and fee names that we display, or to potentially add tooltips to each of the fees to potentially provide additional information around terms and conditions of something like a pet deposit. And then finally, within the calculator at the bottom, there is space for a custom disclaimer for partners to provide additional information they think is important for renters to know.
Those are great. And those are available to all listings nationwide, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, custom fees is available on all listings nationwide. Since launch, we're seeing really strong user engagement with our cost and fees breakdown. Renters are really starting to incorporate this feature as part of their listing evaluation process. And then further, we've seen really positive feedback from renters on this tool, really giving them more confidence in their rental search.
Now, I mentioned earlier that there's been a move towards regulating even more extensive changes when it comes to properties being transparent about fees. Can you walk us through some of the regulations that have been passed, especially for states like Massachusetts and Colorado?
Yeah. So initial states passing a fee transparency regulation were typically requiring disclosure. So that might be a Minnesota and a New Mexico. Here, our cost and fees calculator does a really good job of meeting these requirements. So the cost and fees calculator is able to display what those total monthly and one time costs are, and then also delineate between what's required versus what's optional. The new slate of fee transparency regulation that we're seeing from Massachusetts, Connecticut, and Colorado are taking transparency one step further. So, beyond disclosure of all of that rich fee information on listings that we're able to display within our cost and fees calculator, these states are also requiring that the most prominent advertised price across the rental advertising experience needs to be a pre-calculated total monthly price. So this means base rent really is no longer the primary price that can be displayed across online advertising, and that a pre-calculated total monthly price is what should display in its place.
That's interesting. And this is a pretty big new change. How do you define total monthly price, though? What goes into that calculation?
Yeah, that's a great question. We've had a lot of industry discussion around this topic. Total monthly price is defined essentially as base rent plus any monthly mandatory fee that every renter can expect to pay. Monthly mandatory fees can include things like a fixed utility admin fee or a technology fee. And then specifically things that would not be included in the calculation of a total monthly price might be variable fees that are based on usage. So think utilities where there isn't a set fixed value. It may still be useful to provide details about these utilities, but ultimately, because it's a variable value, it doesn't drive the actual math behind the total price. Additionally, things that are optional, so think pet parking storage, those are not included in this total monthly price. And then finally, one time move in or move out fees and charges, again, are not included in the definition of a total monthly price. So, in summary, total monthly price is meant to indicate what every renter can expect to pay at minimum before making optional selections for their monthly cost.
Got it. That makes sense. And to clarify, properties will no longer be permitted to advertise base rent in Massachusetts. Is that right?
Yeah, that's what the regulation requires. So the regulation requires a total price that is inclusive of monthly mandatory fees. This new price should really be what's the most prominent price across all online advertising.
And there are other industries, of course, where we've seen similar fee transparency changes.
Yeah, so live event ticketing and short-term lodging like Ticketmaster and Airbnb that you see here come to mind. Both marketplaces have made the shift to a total all in price already. And I think as a result, customers are increasingly savvy about fees and are really coming to expect more upfront pricing and details in any of their online marketplace shopping. As a consumer, I think these experiences really help reduce sticker shock. It helps customers understand the total cost ahead of getting too far down funnel.
Yeah, I actually love this. It's so frustrating to get to that checkout stage and realize those $50 tickets are suddenly $100 or more once you add up all the taxes and fees. Anyway, what can you tell us about the work you've been doing behind the scenes to get Zillow ready for these changes? I know you've been working closely with the industry.
Yeah, there's been a lot of collaboration and hard work across key players in the industry. And I would just say, compared to other industries, fee transparency for multifamily is much, much more complex. So think many different fee types that we can, expect across properties and portfolios. There's a lot of complex metadata needed to correctly categorize and calculate rental housing fees to power the cost and fees breakdown that we shared with you. And then there's also just, a very complex landscape of PMS partners, tech platforms, data sharing mechanisms. All of that further complicates the job to be done in our industry. So fortunately, RETC and NMHC has really been playing a leadership role, bringing a cross-industry working group of us together to help solve for some of these challenges that we face. Specifically, we have as a group defined our fee classifications, metadata, and terminology. We recently created a new fee data sharing standard via MITS 5.0. This really sets the foundation for us as an industry to be able to consistently, accurately, and completely share fee data across different marketing channels. And then RETC and NMHC have taken a leadership role in providing industry guidance to drive the adoption here of these new standards. And then most recently, in response to this upcoming Massachusetts regulation, RETC and NMHC has helped us define total price and establish the calculation guidance that all of us will be following.
And I'm sure that's driving our efforts forward. Can you show us what a new Zillow total price experience could look like for renters?
Yeah, happy to. So, on September 2nd, renters searching in Massachusetts can expect to see this shift that we've been talking about, this shift to total price. So, here, the actual values that you see in search will update to that pre calculated total monthly price that we've been talking about. Here on the screen, you can see kind of up front here through this modal and then the blue banner at the top of the results. We're trying to introduce this new pricing experience to renters to help them understand this new dynamic and what they're seeing. Further, when you click into either of those banners, renters can expect to see education materials, really explaining this new pricing experience, helping renters understand how they should be incorporating this into their housing search. We know this is a shift. We want to help our renters along this journey. And then finally, total price here. So on the list cards here, you can see this blue total price text and then this badge there. That's really meant to indicate that the listing provider has confirmed that data for accuracy and completeness. So again, we're just trying to provide more transparency, more labels to go alongside the new values that our renters can expect to see in Massachusetts starting September 2nd.
Got it. And where do we go from there?
Yeah. So from there, if I were to click into any one of those listings, renters can also expect to see changes here as well. So, on this particular property, all of the prices that you see here will then refresh and update to this pre-calculated total price. And just as it is today, a customer can click into the cost and fees breakdown or click into any of those individual units to see more details. So here, as we discussed before, they can see all of the rich details and the inputs that make up this total price. So at the top of the screen here, when you look in that monthly rent and fees section, here you see the calculation. So you see what the base rent is. You see what the fixed monthly required fees are. So here that's going to be your garbage, your technology, and your pest control fees. Those are all driving that calculation to now what is that estimated monthly total, which was the total price that you would have seen in search or on the property page itself. And then finally here, you may see that utilities in this case are variable based on usage. So again, that's just useful information to know. Utilities will be something that you have to keep in mind that you'll pay for, but because it's based on consumption, there's no value there. So the calculator is really meant to provide more of that rich detail in terms of what's driving that total price. And then as we discussed before, engaging with the optional fees. So here, storage, parking, cat rent, all of that will update to your own customized price.
And what if we go beyond search and listings?
Yeah, so beyond search and the listings itself, total price is updated across the entire Zillow experience. So, kind of as most of you can imagine, price really is such a core and vital piece of the entire Zillow rental shopping experience. And so this slide is meant to highlight that price that has been approved and validated by our operators would then update across the entire experience. So from search, as we've talked through, within the listings itself, but then also personalized features like your inbox, saved search, saved homes, all the way to push notifications, emails, advertising. So once partners are able to provide us the fee data, validate its accuracy, and approve it for display, we will then update that price and that value across the entire user journey.
That's great. And would this experience be consistent across the entire Zillow network, including some of the sites we've partnered with, like Realtor and Rent?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've been hard at work with all of our partner brands across the Zillow rental network to ensure that we can deliver a consistent calculator and total price experience in the coming weeks ahead of the September 2nd Massachusetts launch. So specifically, this includes Zillow's own brands, so Truly and HotPads, in addition to our syndication partners, Realtor, Redfin, Rent, Apartment Guide. All of these brands are building similar experiences with a cost and fees calculator in addition to total price. And all of these brands will be leveraging the same data so that we can achieve consistent, complete, and accurate pricing experience across the network of brands. And I should note that data shared with Zillow will be disseminated across all these brands. So operators can really focus on ensuring complete fee data delivery to Zillow, and we'll make sure that that information gets passed along to all of our brands consistently.
All seven. I love it. This experience feels like it aligns with what renters are asking for. I also want to put myself in the shoes of operators and marketers, though. If I'm trying to rent out apartments and I know renters are sensitive to price, am I risking my lead volume if suddenly the price of my property looks higher?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's something that we hear partners share their concerns about all the time, especially as we get closer to this upcoming change. I would say that, increased transparency will ultimately drive efficiency for renters and partners alike. I think we believe that renters who better understand costs up front can hone in on listings they can actually afford, again, before going too far down funnel. And then ultimately, I would say on the partner side, we hope and can expect to see higher intent leads who are more informed about the actual unit pricing and the cost of optional amenities. So overall, we believe that the transparency will lead to more efficiency, but we do understand this is a pretty big shift for the industry.
Right. It would seem to me that this is a big opportunity for multifamily properties, a more open experience for the renter, and potentially a more efficient use of time for the leasing teams. But it might require a shift in how teams are thinking about their KPIs. Hypothetically, you could see lead volume come down, but see your lead to lease conversion rate go up. And I know I would take that all day.
Yeah, absolutely. That's how we're thinking about it. I think all of us will be watching metrics really closely to understand the change in user behavior here. So we definitely want to stay close to all of our partners, understand how the shift to total price impacts key metrics and performance. And then we'll definitely be continuing to survey our users to better understand how the new experience is aiding their rental housing search. So in short, this is an evolution, and we're in this to learn together and evolve as we hear from our renters and partners alike.
Right. I know that one of our partners, BH Management, has spoken about their experience. Why don't we dig in there?
Yeah, so they shared some pretty interesting findings from testing they've been doing on all-in pricing. On the rent roll, BH's CEO shared how their test drove some pretty meaningful changes to metrics. Notably, they saw lead and tour volume decrease, but then they did also see approved applications and move-ins increase. And then overall occupancy was actually higher than before. So our key takeaway here from BH's learnings is that we can probably expect to see a shift and an impact to key metrics. But that all up, we would hope to see efficiency and then conversion improve. So a lot to be learned, but I think the BH test can provide some early indicators in terms of what we might see when we make this shift to total price in Massachusetts.
Yeah, that's incredible. In my eyes, it's really a testament to letting a renter-focused experience drive operational efficiency. Now, You mentioned that getting to a total price experience is complicated, but we also know we have some deadlines approaching, especially for Massachusetts, which that one's coming up quickly. If I have properties in Boston, for example, what do I need to know and start doing right now to get ready?
Yeah. So the first step here really is to get your fee data organized and ready to share. So ensuring that your fee data and all of that related metadata is ready to go. Here, we'd recommend consulting with your PMS for more details on how to do that within their systems. From there, we have a variety of ways that operators can share their fee data with Zillow. So, everything from a major PMS feed to technology partner integrations like Ingrain, to custom feeds that you send to Zillow. And then finally, Zillow account portal is also there to the extent that you want to manually provide any fee data, tooltips, and disclaimer information to us. For all of these data sharing options, again, we'd highly recommend that you get in touch with your relevant representative for more details. Know that Zillow is in active collaboration with all of these major feed and technology providers, and we're ready to support you. Yeah, first step would be getting those fees organized and then reaching out to your relevant representative.
It's a really vital step. So from there, I've shared the data. What next?
Yeah. So once that data has been shared with Zillow as a first step, the second step really is to review your fee data for completeness and accuracy. So here we're recommending to partners, go to your listings, check out your cost and fees breakdown, and then really inspect all the data there. So once you've shared that data, make sure that everything is landing correctly as you'd expect. So those monthly fees, those one-time fees, very important here, checking that those required monthly fees are landing in the right buckets, right values. And then from there, evaluating that estimated monthly total that we have listed, making sure that that is the value that you would expect. Once you've confirmed everything looks good, it's complete, it's accurate, the final step, the third step here is for you to actually approve total price to be displayed on your listings. So, a few things to note here. This new toggle feature will be available on all of your properties in Zillow account portal starting August 25th. I should really be clear here and reiterate that we really need our partners to actually go into Zillow account portal and explicitly toggle on total price for each property that it wants to display across Zillow. We will not be automatically turning this on for you. We really need you to go in, review, and approve the data for accuracy before we want to display this across Zillow for renters. So, the final piece to know is that while this toggle will be available on August 25th, renters will actually not see this new experience until we actually launch and go live on September 2nd.
Got it. And I understand the process for Massachusetts, but what if I want to turn on total price for properties in another state? Or if I want to get a head start on new state regulations in Connecticut or Colorado?
Yeah, so total price can be turned on for any property nationwide once we make that toggle feature available and we actually go live with the experience starting September 2nd. Here, we're really just trying to provide maximum flexibility to partners who may be interested in moving to total price sooner than the regulation requires.
Good to know. Now, what if I'm a multifamily operator and not yet ready to turn on total price, but want to learn from the changes happening in Massachusetts? What's a good recommendation for me there?
Yeah, so I would very much start with providing transparency through our cost and fees calculator. Again, as we shared, renters are really starting to incorporate this in their search. And so I think, again, that first step of sharing your fee data with Zillow, powering our cost and fees calculator, we think that's a great first step here. And hopefully you'll see the results that come from that. Beyond that, I would say be on the lookout from Zillow and the industry writ large on sharing more insights and learnings and recommendations as we shift to total price in Massachusetts. We know that we'll learn quite a bit from that experience, and so we'll definitely share more and share insights as we learn them.
Well, like we said, we know this landscape is changing quickly. So, can you also share some of the resources Zillow has created to help multifamily partners stay up to speed?
Yeah, absolutely. So, kind of two key resources here. One is on is on just the regulatory updates that we had talked about earlier. And so kind of the resource on the left here, if you click into that code, you'll be able to see more details that we've provided in terms of the various regulation that we talked about earlier in this session. Zillow will continue to kind of keep that page updated, and hopefully that's a useful resource, and it links out to some of that regulation that you can review with your internal teams. And then on the right-hand side, very important for us is just how you share your fee data with Zillow. So here, the kind of various methods that you can share data, whether that's through a PMS in green, directly with Zillow or through our Zillow account portal, you'll find all of that rich information there. And again, as we launch new capabilities, we'll continue to keep that resource up to date for folks as well.
These are all really helpful resources. So, Lily, to wrap things up, let me ask you, if you were summarizing the main takeaway and what we need to know, what would you say?
Yeah. So first, I'd say, fee transparency is increasingly a priority for renters, operators, and really the entire industry writ large. Fee calculators like Zillow's cost and fees breakdown are incredibly useful for renters to better understand monthly and moving costs, and again, are increasingly becoming a part of their core kind of rental search behavior. And then from there, this total monthly price concept is a wholly new price experience that will be required in states like Massachusetts, Connecticut, and Colorado, and do require our operators to ensure complete, accurate fee data is shared with Zillow. And then the final piece here is that you're not alone. Zillow is very much here to support you. We've worked hard to ensure we can deliver our partners tools and capabilities needed to power this new experience. And so we very much want to collaborate with you to bring your data into our systems, enrich your listings, and help provide a positive experience for both renters and partners alike.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Lily, and thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, of course. My pleasure.
And thank you, everyone, for joining us for this Zillow Rentals webinar. Before we go, I wanted to let you know that we'll be covering this topic in even more detail at this year's Zillow Rentals Unlock. Unlock is our annual multifamily event where we host property owners and marketers from across the country. We'll be covering lots of topics from renter and economic data to tips on marketing to Gen Z to AI and more. We'll also have a panel on fee transparency and have a chance to discuss learnings and best practices from partners like Bazzuto and Graystar, as well as Ngrain. So if you're interested, please join us down in Austin from October 20th to the 23rd. There's a QR code on the screen so you can learn more. That's it for now. See you next time.